Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you want to get a real understanding of something important efficiently.
And today, we're tackling a really fascinating connection.
Yeah, we're looking at how intermittent fasting actually impacts your gut health.
It's quite the topic, especially building on our previous deep dives. We've looked at fasting for weight loss, mental clarity.
Physical performance, hormones, even longevity, we've covered a lot of ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we're zoning in on this whole world inside you, the gut microbiome.
Right. So we know taking breaks from eating changes things. But what happens to those trillions of tiny residents in your digestive system? Because honestly, the gut affects so much more than just digestion.
Oh, absolutely. Immunity, mood,
Yeah.
it's huge.
So the mission today is to really understand how fasting, intermittent fasting, interacts with that whole ecosystem.
Yeah, what changes does it actually trigger? The goal is by the end of this, you'll have a clearer picture of the benefits, the considerations, and what it might mean for, well, for you.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. The gut microbiome, it sounds pretty complex. What are we actually talking about?
Well, at its heart, it's this incredibly dense collection of microorganisms, mostly bacteria, but you've also got fungi, viruses, all living in your digestive tract.
Like a tiny city inside us.
That's a good analogy, yeah. And they're not just passive residents, they have crucial jobs. They help digest food you can't break down yourself. They produce essential vitamins and other compounds, and they play a massive role in sort of training and regulating your immune system.
So they're like an internal support team working away.
Pretty much. And a healthy gut isn't just about having microbes. It's about the right kinds in the right balance.
Okay, so what does healthy look like in this context?
We generally look for three things. Diversity, meaning lots of different species. Balance, a good ratio of beneficial bugs to potentially problematic ones. And stability.
Stability, meaning they can handle change.
Yeah, resilience. So if something disrupts it, like maybe an illness or antibiotics, it can bounce back effectively.
Got it. And when that balance gets thrown off, when the team isn't working well, what happens then? What are the potential issues for you?
Well, unfortunately, disruptions in this balance, what scientists sometimes call dysbiosis, have been linked to a whole range of health problems.
Like what?
Things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, even inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's or colitis. There's growing evidence connecting gut health to many conditions.
Wow. So understanding how to keep it healthy is pretty fundamental for your overall well-being then.
Absolutely crucial.
Which brings us back to intermittent fasting. How does throwing that into the mix affect this delicate internal system? Maybe quickly define IF for anyone who's not familiar.
Sure. Intermittent fasting, or IAF, it's basically an eating pattern. It's about when you eat, not necessarily what you eat. You cycle between periods of eating normally and periods of voluntary fasting.
Right, like the 168 method or
Yeah.
maybe 5.2, those
Yeah.
kinds of schedules.
Exactly. Different patterns exist. And the research looking at how this pattern impacts the gut microbiome is, well, it's really starting to heat up. It's generating a lot of excitement.
Okay, so what are scientists finding? What are some of the key things this research suggests for you?
Well, one important piece comes from a systematic review, basically a study of studies.
Yeah.
And what they found pretty consistently is that IF seems to boost gut microbiota richness and what's called alpha diversity.
Richness and alpha diversity. Can you break those down? Why do those matter for you?
Yeah, sure. So richness is basically just the number of different types of species you have. More types, higher richness.
Okay.
Alpha diversity is a bit more nuanced.
Yeah.
It considers both the number of species and how evenly distributed they are. Think of it like an ecosystem. You want lots of different players, and you don't want just one or two dominating everything.
Right, a balanced community. So more diversity is generally seen as healthier.
Generally, yes. A more diverse gut microbiome is often associated with being more stable, more resilient, and better able to perform all those vital functions we talked about. It's like having a more adaptable internal workforce for your benefit.
So fasting might actually help build a stronger, more versatile microbial team inside you. It's interesting.
It really is. And there's another angle, too. One study looked at a slightly more intense fast, 5 days straight.
5 days. Wow, what did they see?
They observed specific shifts in the types of bacteria, particularly impacting those involved in producing something called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs.
SCFAs, I've heard of those. They're supposed to be really good for your gut health, aren't they? Why should you care about those?
Absolutely. They're super important. Beneficial bacteria produce them when they ferment fiber that you eat.
Okay.
And these SCFAs, like butyrate, for example, they're the main fuel source for the cells lining your colon. They help maintain the gut barrier, reduce inflammation. They do a lot.
So the fact that fasting could influence the bacteria making these compounds, that's a big deal for your gut environment.
It's potentially quite significant, yes. It suggests fasting isn't just changing who is there, but also what they're doing.
So it's not just about the numbers, but about encouraging the good guys that produce beneficial stuff for you.
That seems to be part of the picture. And digging deeper into which bacteria change during fasting, we see some interesting patterns emerging.
Like what? Any specific examples?
Well, several studies point towards an increase in certain beneficial bacteria. One that often pops up is Akkermansia muciniphila.
Akkermansia.
No.
That's a mouthful. What's special about that one for you?
Huh, yeah, it is. Well, Akkermansia lives in the mucus layer lining your gut. And there are a growing body of research linking higher levels of it to better metabolic health.
Metabolic health, like blood sugar control, things like that.
Exactly. Better insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, potentially even helping with weight management. So seeing Akkermansia increase during fasting could be one mechanism behind some of the metabolic benefits people report.
That's a fantastic, concrete example of a potential plus for you. What about the other side of the coin? The less helpful bacteria. Does fasting affect them?
It seems so. Some research suggests that fasting might lead to a decrease in certain types of bacteria that are often associated with inflammation or metabolic problems.
Really? So it's kind of a double whammy.
Potentially, yeah. It looks like it might help shift the balance, boosting the beneficial microbes while possibly suppressing some of the ones linked to negative health outcomes, creating a more favorable gut environment for your health overall.
Okay, let me try and summarize that bit for you. It sounds like IF could nudge your gut microbiome in a healthier direction by increasing diversity, boosting helpful bacteria like Akkermansia, and maybe reducing the less desirable ones.
That's a pretty good summary of the current thinking, yes.
That alone feels like a significant benefit for your health.
It is. And these changes in the microbes likely have knock-on effects, especially when we think about the gut barrier.
Ah, the gut barrier. You mentioned that earlier. It's like the lining, the gatekeeper for your system. Why is its integrity so important for you?
Exactly. It's the lining of your intestines.
Yeah.
Its job is critical. Let nutrients in, keep harmful stuff out, things like undigested food particles, toxins, pathogens.
So if it gets leaky, that's bad news for your health.
That's the concern, yes. Increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut means things can cross into the bloodstream that shouldn't, potentially triggering inflammation and other issues.
Okay, so how does fasting potentially help strengthen this barrier for you?
The idea, supported by some early research, is that the fasting period essentially gives your digestive system a break, time off from constant digestion. And this downtime seems to allow the cells lining the gut to repair and regenerate more effectively. This could potentially tighten up the junctions between cells, reducing that unwanted permeability.
So it's like giving your gut wall some time for maintenance and repair, which makes it stronger for you.
That's a great way to put it. Rest and recovery.
And does this stronger barrier connect to inflammation?
Directly. If the barrier is more intact, fewer inflammatory triggers get into your bloodstream from the gut. Plus, remember the shift towards beneficial bacteria.
Yeah, like Akkermansia.
Right. Those beneficial microbes themselves often have anti-inflammatory effects or produce compounds like SCFAs that reduce inflammation. So by improving the microbiome and the barrier, fasting might help lower gut-derived inflammation, which can have systemic benefits for your overall health.
Wow, okay. It really paints a picture of how interconnected this all is for you. Better bacteria, stronger barrier, potentially less inflammation throughout your body. It's like a positive feedback loop.
It certainly seems that way based on the emerging evidence.
So thinking about all this, let's get practical. If someone listening is doing intermittent fasting or thinking about it, what can they do to specifically support their gut health during this process?
Great question. This is where it comes together for you.
What are the key actionable steps?
Okay, first and foremost, what you eat during your eating windows really matters. You can't fast and then just eat junk and expect great results for your gut.
Makes sense. So what should you focus on?
Focus on feeding those beneficial microbes we talked about. That means plenty of fiber from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds. Variety is key. Fiber is their food.
Feed the good guys. Got it. What else?
Hydration is crucial, especially when you're fasting. Water supports overall digestion, helps move things along, and contributes to that healthy microbial balance. So drink plenty of water or herbal teas during your fasting window.
Stay hydrated. Always good advice, fasting or not. Anything else?
Yes, one more important point. Try not to go crazy and overeat when you break your fast.
Ah, the temptation to compensate.
Exactly. Suddenly overloading your system after a period of rest can be stressful for your gut and might disrupt that harmony you're trying to build. Aim for normal, balanced meals.
Right, so it's not just about the fasting periods, but also being mindful during the eating periods to get the best outcome for you. Consistency.
Precisely. It's about the whole pattern, the holistic approach.
Okay, great advice. Let's try and pull this all together for you listening. What are the main takeaways from our deep dive today?
I think the key message is that intermittent fasting shows real promise for positively influencing your gut microbiome.
How so?
Well, the evidence suggests it can enhance microbial diversity, which is generally good, and specifically boost populations of beneficial bacteria, like that Akkermansia we mentioned.
And those changes aren't just interesting, they might actually lead to tangible health benefits for you.
That's the connection, yes. These shifts in your gut bugs could translate into a stronger gut barrier and potentially reduced inflammation, both of which are really foundational for your long-term health and well-being.
So for you considering IFF, it's another potential tool in the toolbox for supporting a healthy gut alongside diet and lifestyle.
Exactly. It's not a magic bullet, but it seems to be a beneficial influence for many people. And remember, combining IF with a nutrient-dense, fiber-rich diet during eating periods, staying hydrated, managing stress, it all works synergistically to support your gut health.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really drives home how much our eating patterns, even just the timing, can affect this complex world inside us.
It's a rapidly evolving field, truly fascinating. And, speaking of complex systems and fasting, our next deep dive is going to explore how fasting might impact your mental health and cognitive function. Another really intricate connection.
Ooh, the brain-gut axis in fasting. That sounds compelling. Definitely something to tune in for.
We hope so.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive into fasting and gut health. If you found this useful, please do subscribe and maybe share it with someone else who's curious about optimizing their health.
And maybe leave you with a final thought. We've talked gut, we'll talk brain. What other, perhaps unexpected links might exist between how and when you eat, and other aspects of your health that we don't even typically connect? Something to ponder.